All right, we are talking to Joy McMillan, author of XES, Why Church Girls Tend to Get It Backwards and How to Get It Right. Last we left off here, Joy, you were talking about your own story. And I just have to ask, why are you so passionate about this topic? I will say you put a lot of yourself into this book. You shared a lot of your personal story here, really kind of airing some of your own dirty laundry. Why be so vulnerable in this book? Is this the reason why you're so passionate about this topic?
I'm really passionate about talking about this because I feel like there is a lot of talk about this already. Sex is thrown at us in this day and age. It's used to sell everything from body wash to automobiles. And the church has been kind of quiet. And so if you want to know about sex, or if you want to, join the conversation, you don't go to church, you go outside. And so I really was passionate about wanting to start the conversation. I wanted to break the silence because we are walking wounded. I grew up in this great, solid Christian home, and yet I was exposed to what I was, and it affected me the way it did, which then influenced the way I fleshed out my existence on the face of this earth, and everything was affected. The way I thought about myself, the way I communicated with people, the way I thought about my future were all looked at through this lens of brokenness. And I got so good at stuffing it. I got so good at living a double life that I struggled actually to remember what was real and what was not, because it had become so natural to me to pretend and to lie. And when I started I had this amazing experience right before I got married. It wasn't amazing at the time. It was terrifying and uncomfortable, but it was beautiful because God broke the silence. And all the stuff that I'd been keeping and hiding for so long came out. And my husband, the guy I was going to marry, didn't know about my past, and I'd become so good at pretending that I was who I wanted to be, and told him the poor me part. I was date raped. I come with baggage, and thought that would be sufficient for him to know that I didn't have it all together. And God was really wooing me. Don't carry this. You need to live with full disclosure. How do you build a marriage on lies and pretense? And so that was a hard journey to walk. But when it was all out in the open and I experienced freedom after 7 years of secrets and shame, I desperately wanted other people to experience that, because I knew that while the details of my journey were unique, the shame that I had battled was not. And I think it's more common than we realize.
Oh, yeah. Now, you mentioned here in the title of your book, Church Girls Tend to Get It Backwards. I want to focus one on backwards. What do you mean by they get it backwards? Two, on the word girls, church girls, because you're talking here about the church broadly so far. But what is it about women in the church? What is it that women specifically get backwards?
Your first question was about the church,
yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think going back to the fact that the voice we hear a lot is the world's, I think we have this very distorted view of God's heart on sex. When we grow up in the church, we hear that anthem of don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex, sex is dirty, and it's intended to communicate don't have sex before marriage, but we tend to just spurt that out so easily. Don't have sex, There's sex in that movie. We look at sex as a whole as bad, whether we intend to or not. We communicate that, and you've got those really passionate youth pastors that so want purity to be.
Yes, sex is dirty, nasty, gross, so save it for the one you love.
Exactly. Exactly. And we don't tend to back that up with, God says don't have it before you're married because he wants it to be so good when you are. And so we misunderstand the heart of God because we only hear a piece of the puzzle.
Right.
And So that was the church thing of the church needs to own what God gave his most beloved creation. This is something God created for us. So while Christians are known for what we're against, what political party we think is best, what we're known for what we're against. But Jesus said, be known for your love, be known for a representation of my heart. And sex is here, this earthly, tangible expression of God's heart for his people. And so shouldn't we be having, as Christians, the best sex ever? When it's our Creator who gave it to us as a gift, but we're the ones who don't want to talk about it. It's this uncomfortable, awkward. Shouldn't we be speaking louder than the world? Sex is great, and this is why.
That's right. And so then tying that then to what is it that women specifically, girls specifically, get backwards as opposed to men?
Sure. I think part of that was just because my story was in it and my journey. My voice is decidedly feminine. And so because my experience affected the way I saw it, I knew that while I've had men read this, and it really gives insight to their wives and their journeys, I wanted to speak specifically to the heart of a woman because my experience so colored the way I saw myself, the way I saw God, and the way I saw him ever being able to use me, that I wanted to communicate hope in my voice, which was feminine. So while I didn't want to cut men out of the equation, I just knew, okay, this is what I know, and it's the heart of woman.
Right. And we know how we get. So you're talking about how they get it backwards. So how do they get it right? What can the church and what can women in the church do differently?
I think just having the conversation is starting the conversation about what is God's heart on sex. When I sat down to write this, I knew, okay, what is my purpose at the end of the day? What do I hope people will walk away from? And it boiled down to 4 key things. One, I wanted to expose lies that we believe in the church, lies about, specifically as women, lies that we believe about our bodies, lies we believe about our husbands and the way God has wired them and how that relates to us as their wives, or even outside of marriage, just boys to girls, lies that we believe about sex and God's perspective. And so the next thing was I want to enlighten people to what God's heart is on sex. What was the intention? Why did he create it? So expose, enlighten. I wanted to, thirdly, encourage women to not settle for less than what God has for them, because sex is such a foundational thing in marriage. I heard before I got married that this little saying that, of course, makes so much sense now that I'm married, that Satan will do everything he can to get you into bed before you're married, and then he'll do everything he can to keep you out of it once you are. I thought, gosh, that's so true. Sex is so powerful, and so no wonder it's under attack, because it is so influential in the way we relate. And so if you can attack sex, you affect the foundation of a marriage. If you affect the foundation of marriage, you affect a family and a community, and wow, the devil hit the jackpot. And so, I wanted to encourage women, don't settle for mediocre. It's a lie that the world gets to have the fun, creative, colorful sex and the church is relegated to procreating. That's nonsense. And so we need to speak truth. Don't settle. I wanted to also encourage, this is the 30, was to encourage women to travel lightly. God didn't design us to carry the baggage and the secrets and the shame that we tend to. And then the fourth E is equip. I wanted to give them tools to grab a hold of this idea that God is for marriage, God is for sex. And